social media has a direct impact on self-esteem levels within teenage audiences?
I think it's really difficult to determine a direct influence. I think it has an influence, but can we start again? Ask me again.
Do you think social media has a direct impact on the self-esteem levels within teenage audiences?
I think it depends what you mean by direct influence. It's very difficult to tell the difference between a correlation, which is a relationship, and causation, which is when something causes an effect. I think it has an impact, and I think that a lot of the young people that come and see me in the counselling service at the college are affected by the amount of time they're spending on social media, the sort of sites they're accessing, how they're interacting with other people. But whether the social media is actually causing it or not is a really complex and difficult question to answer.
Okay. What's the youngest age that could be affected by this?
Well, there's a new minimum age of 16, so children under the age of 16 shouldn't be accessing social media, but we know that many do. And we know that children at primary school are active on social media, which I think is a real concern, because I don't think they've had sufficient socialisation or development of their sense of self to really be able to engage and understand the difference between social media interaction and real life interaction. So I think the younger you are, quite possibly the more dangerous it is.
Is it just teens going through this? Could it be older people, like 24 plus, that could be affected as well?
Well, do you know, I've got friends in their 50s who get distressed by interactions they've had. I think it can affect anybody of any age. I think during adolescence, peer validation is a particularly important part of your growing sense of self. So it might have a deeper impact on teenagers than older people, but I think it has the potential to impact on anybody.
Do you think celebrity gossip is related to self-esteem levels? Like through social media, tabloids? Do you think that celebrity gossip kind of impacts self-esteem levels?
Again, I think it really depends on the individual. I think some people understand that gossip isn't real and that it's all part of a branding and media hype and the angle of the marketing. That, you know, I think quite a lot of young people are very aware of how much goes on behind the scenes and how unreal the stuff that gets into the media is, and how manipulative it is. But again, it's individual, isn't it? Because other people are going to be much more sucked into what's going on.
Do you think, in your professional opinion, that social media platforms are the biggest influence in today's society?
I think that's an enormous question. I'm not even sure how to answer it. I think we're impacted by so many different influences in our lives. So our friendship groups, our family, our culture, our faith group, our education. You know, there's so many strands that are impacting on our development of self and development of who we are in society, in our communities. I'm not sure that I'd say that social media is the biggest or the most prominent. Again, it depends on the individual. For some people, it takes up a huge part of their psychological, emotional energy, and for others, it's not such a big deal.
What kind of dangers to mental health does social media pose?
Well,
in the simplest way possible.
The simplest way, well, it's really interesting because a report was published today suggesting that it doesn't have a really detrimental impact, and it's quite a big study. It was published by the University of Oxford, and it goes against what a lot of people have been saying. I think there are some things that it definitely has a detrimental impact. The sort of people who are maybe suffering lack of sleep because they're on their phones late into the night, that they're waking in the night because the phones are buzzing. Obviously, it's a very basic biological need to have sleep, and if your sleep's very disturbed night after night, it's going to have an impact on your well-being on a very fundamental level. We all function a lot worse when we haven't slept properly. As far as the particular dangers around things like thinspiration sites for people accessing them who might have eating disorders, the sites that encourage people to self-harm or have really quite frightening suicidal... sorry. You'll edit that out, won't you? The sites that have very explicit suicide exploration that are really dangerous and very, very triggering for people who've experienced trauma. Those are dangerous, but I don't think that the majority of young people on social media are seeking out those particular images, and if you're not, then you won't be so affected by them.
You think it's always obvious that someone's affected by social media, like in terms of self-esteem?
I don't think it is obvious, because I think sometimes if you've got a maybe low self-esteem, it could come from a variety of different influences in your life, and social media might be one of those. I think there's been a big rise in body dysmorphic disorder, where people have very distorted ideas of how they look, what their appearance is like. And certainly I work with quite a lot of young people at the college who are very, very beautiful people, but don't believe it at all, believe that they're very almost disfigured and needing plastic surgery to correct imperfections that are totally invisible to me. Now, whether that comes from social media and exposure to lots of airbrushed images, or whether it's a whole combination of different factors, but I do think social media plays a part in that.
What do you recommend for people being affected by this issue?
Well, to say turn your phone off, I think it's like Canute telling the sea not to come in. You know, it's just not going to happen. People are so, addicted is probably the wrong word, but it's so enmeshed in our lives to be connected. So I don't even try and ask people not to, but limiting time is possible. And I thought it was very interesting that Instagram last week announced that they might be changing the liking strategy, so that you could, only the person posting will see how many likes it's got, and not the general audience, which I think is really interesting, because I think that has a profound impact. I'd almost like to experiment with there being no likes, and would people still post if they weren't getting the affirmation of people communicating that they like or dislike what's been posted. I think maybe it's sort of being more mindful and aware of what you're looking at, how much time you're spending on it, and thoughtfully processing, is this interacting with, is it reducing the amount of time you're having face-to-face with friends or family? Do you feel your mood dropping? Are you not sleeping as well? Is it affecting your appetite? Are you eating less or more as a result? People may be being a little bit more thoughtful about the impact it has on them, and then making decisions about how much time to spend on it.